Hi, everybody. I'm coming to you this afternoon to talk to you about the Payroll Protection Program. All right. I want to tell you, say that again. It's the Payroll Protection Program. It's a program. It's not a loan until it becomes a loan. So just keep that in mind. That's why we call it the PPP, is what I'll refer to it as well. Today, I want to just talk about a few things. Number one, communications, how we're communicating with each other. As you know, we're sending out a lot of emails and we're doing a couple webinars so far. And today we're doing a video because we didn't think we could get a webinar put together fast enough. So I'm just coming to you this way, getting the information out to you. So we're going to talk about communications. I want to talk about the PPP information and what we're doing for you and when things will be ready, and answer a bunch of questions that have been coming in. And I want to just take time today to spend a few minutes with you just to give you some answers to questions that we've been receiving. Okay. I'm not going to show my screen. We're just going to talk about it. We're going to keep it real simple. All right. First of all, communications. I ask you to send your questions regarding PPP or the COVID-19 information that the questions that you have to COVID-19 at mdmanagementgroup.com. You got to spell it all out. Don't put a dash in between COVID and 19. It's COVID-19 at mdmanagementgroup.com. And then I'd ask that you do us a favor, and that is just don't copy another team member thinking that, well, I'll send it to Mike or I'll send it to Sharon as well. That just slows us down. So put it to the COVID-19 at MD Management Group, and then Tyler will respond with a quick, hey, I got it, thank you. And then we're putting that information into a document that allows us to spend time going through them and answering questions. And as you know, you got an email earlier that a lot of those question and answers are already posted up there, just like we had the other document, the COVID-19 disaster relief for healthcare clients, that document. We have very similar one for question and answers. And so we're going to keep updating that as we go based on your questions. I'd ask too that you let us get ahead of you a little bit. You're not working, or maybe you are a little bit, but you're reading a lot of stuff and you got a lot of questions. Let us come to you with the questions as soon as we can. I appreciate the questions. I just want to make sure that we're answering them all together with all the clients rather than trying to do them individually. And that's why we have to do this COVID-19 at mdmanagementgroup.com. So appreciate your help on that. We'll do our best to answer your questions as quickly as we can. All right. Secondly, today, an email was sent out to you with a video, and Tyler did a good job on that. He explained the client resource site and how to get to it, and also the new client portals that we've been using for quite some time. Not all of you have been on it. And not all of you have been getting in to see your dashboards or the other information that we have there. And so now it's new to you. So we understand that. We want to help you get to that. But that's the way we're distributing the information, through the client resource site and through the new client portal. And so you need to know how they work. And as I go through this stuff today, I'll say, hey, that's in the client resource site, or that's in your new client portal. And if you don't know how to get on there, I'd encourage you to watch that video. If you don't know where something is, watch the video. It's really very informative. Tyler did a great job, like I said. So I think, take the time to read that or watch that. It's not real long, and it'll be very helpful. Okay, let's talk about the Payroll Protection Program, the PPP, and that information. Many of you took the information that we had. We had put up the application form that we received. It's a very simple application. It's asking for the annual average wages or salaries. And then it has a 2.5 times, and you put in that number, and that's your loan amount. Then it's also asking for number of jobs. Well, that was ill-defined. We really didn't know what that was. So did some digging on that, and what we believe to be true today, and that changes. Things are going quickly and very fluid. So, but we think that that's going to be full-time equivalent employees. So our team is putting together the spreadsheet that's going to have that information on there as well. Additionally, we've been talking to some bankers about what kind of documentation that's going to be required. And we believe at this point, the only thing really that needs to be in there would be maybe the quarterly payroll taxes for the periods of which we are calculating the salaries and such. On our first spreadsheet we sent, we just gave you a number. And I said, look, the bankers are going to want more than that. They're going to want more documentation, like how many employees, how much are they, that sort of thing. That's why we sent the email out. As soon as that went out, said to you, hey, hold on, don't send that out quite yet. Wait until we get the new spreadsheet up there. That new spreadsheet is going to, we're working on it right now. Even as I speak to you, they are sending that out, and we have a goal of having that available today yet by 5 o'clock. Okay, it might be there sooner, and it might be a little bit later depending on what we run into, but our goal is 5 o'clock. You can check on your portals, but if you see the old number and just a plain thing, this will be a full spreadsheet, and we'll talk a little bit more about that spreadsheet in a moment. But every bank out there that you're working with, and our clients work with different banks, they aren't all with one bank in particular, will probably have different information that they require. So they might say, I had one yesterday, Mike, I need to have my 2018, 2019 financial statements, and a balance sheet would be nice too. And oh, I'd like to know where we're at for 2020 too. If you're getting those kinds of questions from the banker, I would ask you to kindly say, look, we need to get the information for the application process, which is right now salaries, wages, and the other components that are on the spreadsheet to get to the loan amount. Then once we have that information, if your banker needs additional information down the road, we'll talk about that later, okay? But right now, we want to get that application filled out. We want to get that to our banker, and that's what we're going to talk about today, just providing you with that information. So you are going to go into your new client portal, and then there will be the link that is going to share that spreadsheet with you, okay? That and like I said, if you don't know where that link is, because you don't know where the new client portal is, you need to go back through your emails that was just sent out today and watch that video that Tyler did. The spreadsheet's going to contain the following, okay? It's going to have the computation of the average monthly payroll, all right? And you'll use that on the application form. I'm receiving a lot of questions about how that's calculated, you know, and we've gone through that, and that spreadsheet will detail that calculation. You'll see it. It'll be very clear to you how that is computed, okay? Secondly, on that spreadsheet, there's going to be a link on the upper top right part of the spreadsheet. It'll say something like PPP documentation. And underneath, there'll be a link that says something like 940s, 941s. You're going to click on that link to open up the file, all right? And those are the reports that support the wages that we're putting on that spreadsheet. That file that you open up in that document is password protected. Okay, we're trying to keep everything real safe for you, and so it is password protected, and it will be the password for you will be your company's federal ID number without any dashes. All right, so you're going to put your federal ID number in there, and then you'll be able to see the documents. Here's what I'd like you to do at this point when you get that information, okay? First of all, number one, if you don't know how to get on the client resources or onto your client, on your new client portal, I want you to watch that video that Tyler sent out this afternoon, okay? That's number one. Number two, like I said, the goal by 5 o'clock this afternoon, you'll be able to access that spreadsheet, okay? I want you to go in there, go into the spreadsheet, take a look at it, familiarize yourself with how the things are being calculated. That's fine. But then I want you to print it. You should be able just to go, you know, to print the form. Typically, that's a Control P or ways to print that. I think maybe even you can go File Print. I'm not exactly sure. That needs to be printed. You need to get that form to your banker, because that's going to be your support for the wages and how we did the calculation. It's also going to have the numbers you need on there for the financial piece of the application that you have. All right. So you're gonna print that form. Number two, you're gonna click on the link for the 940 and the 941s, and then you're gonna put your password in, which again is your federal ID number without any dashes, and then you're gonna print that off as well. So you'll have, and those have really, it's five pages or so. It's each quarter in 2019, each quarter of the payroll taxes, and an annual 940 for their purposes of supporting that information. So if you haven't done so already, you should also print out the Payroll Protection Program application. It's a copy is in your client or in our client resource portal, and it's in the area called How to Apply for a Payroll Protection Program application. So, and again, if you don't know how to get there, what's my answer? You're going to go back and look at that video that Tyler sent out this afternoon. So take a copy of that application, fill out the forms up on the top that ask for the information that we've given to you in that spreadsheet, and then the support documents that you printed out. And I would take that to the banker. And like I said, your banker may request additional information. Some of that information you may already have, okay? If you have copies of our financial statements, you have access to those, you can print them off and give it to them if that's what they want. They may want some detailed information on the health insurance, okay? We went through and looked at that. Most of the clients that, the doctors anyway, we have down below in the financial statements, we have general overhead and then we have professional overhead. So because the physician's compensation, most of them are over $100,000, that's the limit. We didn't add any health insurance for them. Instead, what we did is we just went to the health insurance up top for the employees and added that to the number to get the wages, rather than sitting and trying to figure out every single employee and what their amounts were. If we had somebody that was very close to $100,000, a PA, for example, or nurse practitioner, if they were even close, we looked at it and then we might call the office and say, hey, how much is the health insurance for that particular person, so that we'd know whether or not they exceeded the $100,000 or not. Okay, let me see. Next, there are a lot of questions. I know they're coming fast and furious about the Paycheck Protection Program. So I would like to just take a few moments to go through some of the questions that I've received, and maybe even some more that'll help you kind of understand the program today. Rather than doing a PowerPoint, I'm just going to talk about the questions and and try to explain the program as simply as I can to help it just kind of sink in how this program works. So I hope this is helpful today. Okay, we've been getting a lot of questions. How do I apply? And do I do this online or do I do it with the bank? Can I apply for the EDL loan and that grant and still apply for the PPP program? All those. How's this going to be forgiven? So let's go through the questions that I have prepared here, and let me answer them, and hopefully that'll be very helpful to you. Number one, how much money is available? Well, first of all, Congress allocated approximately $350 billion to the Paycheck Protection Program as part of the CARES Act, which we covered in a webinar previously. If you need to know more about that CARES Act and what we did there, go back and watch that replay. It'd be very helpful. So that $350 billion is available and people are going there and getting it. Now, will they expand that? Will they add more to it based upon the need? They might, but right now, all we know is that there's $350 billion. And so we want to be there, and we're trying to help you be one of the first ones to get there, okay? So we want to be first in line. All right, when will the PPP loans be available, okay? First of all, I want to say, remember, it's a program. People will get that eventually. It's a program. A loan happens later on after the forgiveness happens. Then we decide whether or not we're going to take a loan or not. So we'll discuss that in a minute. So when will they be available? Well, applications can start as of tomorrow. So April 3, that's when the applications will start. And we think that the loan money or the program money will be available probably anywhere from mid-April to the 1st of May. It all depends on how quickly the banks are working on their processes, how quickly we can get the information to them. I think there's still a lot of unknowns at the bank yet. And so when we bring this information in, if they're saying, well, we need this, this, and this, it's maybe because they aren't sure yet. And that's okay. We gotta work with them. I get that. But I just want to create a whole bunch of extra work by having all kinds of banks come with all kinds of different processes and then ask that from us. So we're trying to lay that out, say, here's the information that's needed in order to do the application. And then down the road, if there's additional information that's needed for determining the forgiveness of loans or whatever, then we'll get that later. So take one step at a time and get this to them, and then hopefully that'll work. We've talked to some bankers. We know that the information that we're giving you is okay, and I'm not advocating that you switch banks, but if it gets really tough and it's hard to work with the bank, then maybe they don't know the process, and then at that point, we might want to go to another bank, at least for the SBA process or for this process of the Payroll Protection Program. I'm not advocating that you switch bankers. I don't want you to hear that and say, well, Mike says we should switch banks. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is work with your banker, bring the information. If they're asking for a whole lot more information, they may not be up to speed. This is supposed to be very simple for the businesses that are applying. How long does the program run for? Okay, well, the program will be available and to be approved all the way through June 30 of 2020. So the fact that you're getting out there and getting your application and putting it in, maybe even by tomorrow, you're way ahead of the game. That's awesome. But just know that it'll go all the way to June 30th. So if you're not ready to go by, say, tomorrow with the information we've given you and the bank's requiring some more information, that's okay. And we'll work on it, and then we'll distribute it through that same spreadsheet and the same different link that'll say, well, now here's this information. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. Here's a question. Can a business get more than one PPP loan? And the answer is no. This is the one time you go and apply for the loan. It's based on your wages, annual or average monthly wages, and it's 2.5 times that average. That gives you the amount of loan that you can get. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to get this loan and then I'll use that money up and then go get another one. It's not going to work that way. Can I get a PPP program money and still the EIDL loan or for the COVID-19 purposes? Now, early on, we had sent out a recommendation that you apply for the EIDL loan. Now, let me explain this a little bit because there's some confusion there. The intent of doing that initially was that the EIDL loan had a $10,000 advance payment, okay? So that $10,000 advance payment, if you applied for it, you were supposed to get that money in your account within 3 days of the application. I don't know if any of you have received that. I have not seen any of those yet, okay? But in the next couple of days, we may see that money hitting. If you get that advance payment, that is a grant. You are not going to have to pay that money back. Now, it's got to be used for the purposes of covering your staff and that sort of thing. That's what that money is for, is to help you take care of the COVID crisis that you're in and maybe shorten cash. All right. So that's what that's for. The fact that if you don't get it, we really want to focus on the Payroll Protection Program, because that's where I say is the golden nugget. That's what we want to get involved in and be a part of. So really what we were doing is having you file for that EIDL loan just so that you could get that advance payment. All right. Then when they approved you for the loan, you would probably say, no, I don't need it because we're working on the Payroll Protection Program. All right. So the next question is, can I qualify for for these SBA loans and still apply for a state or local funds as well? Well, that's going to depend on the program that the state has, or maybe locally what you have available. So on our COVID-19 disaster relief document that's in the client resource portal, there's a section in there under the loan section, the SBA loans, right underneath that talks about the state programs, and there's a link there, and you could click on that link. It'll take you to the state programs that are available, and you can look to see whether there's one for you, because they're usually by location, okay? Different parts of the state have those kind of programs. I have one client that has looked into that. We really don't think they're going to get much money on that program, and that's why we're focusing all our efforts on trying to get stuff ready for the Payment Protection Program. Okay, let's see here. All right. How much money can I get? That's the question. And I covered that a little bit earlier, and that's that 2.5 times the average monthly payroll cost for a 1-year period. And that's what we used was January 1 through 12/31/2019 to figure out what the average monthly amount was and multiplied that times 2.5 to get your potential loan amount. And again, that'll be on that spreadsheet, and it'll show that as well. Here's another question. What costs can be included in the definition of payroll? Okay. Again, it's detailed on the spreadsheet, but it will be your wages. It'll be group health insurance benefits, retirement plan payments that we made for the employees, and any compensation of the doctors up to $100,000. So $100,000 is our limit. That's what we have to, anything above that, we had to exclude for the calculation of determining about how much money you would be able to get. All right. Next question. What can the loans be used for? Well, the loans could be used for kind of the same things that we're applying for. So it'll be used for wages. It'll be used for rent, although that's not in that number. It could be used for utilities. It could be used for and utilities. So you know, it's the classic utilities. It's the gas, water, electric, and then also telephone and internet. So it could be used for mortgage, debt, and interest, those kinds of things. But it's limited as to the amount or the types of expenses that you can use that money for. But it's mainly your wages. Okay. Next question. What are the application requirements for the PPP loan? Well, in the old days, you had you still do. If people wanted to qualify for a normal SBA loan, there's a lot of underwriting that needs to go on. Bankers need to provide a lot of information. However, under the Payroll Protection Program, those normal SBA underwriting requirements have been relaxed tremendously. They're just asking for basic information. Now, I know the banks are trying to figure that all out, and they're used to having it be, all the documentations that they had before. But right now they're searching that out. But I'm telling you, it's meant to be very simple, very quick. We want to get the government wants to get the money out to the small businesses to help them during this crisis. So it's not meant to be a laborious situation. Mainly, they want to know that you're in business and we're in operation on February 15th, 2020. You had employees and incurred payroll taxes and that kind of thing. And then the other thing you have to do is certify. So you'll have to certify that the uncertainty of certain economic conditions makes it necessary for this loan. Okay. And to support the ongoing operations of the business. Well, that's not going to be hard to certify when you've been shut down. You don't have any patients coming in, or only those that are very emergent situations, and you had to let a bunch of your staff go, or you're paying for your staff and you don't have any money for that. Now, the banks may require that, we have to show that in order to get this loan. Well, if that's the case, we'll go to step 2. Right now, we want to get step 1 done, which is getting you the information that's needed on the financial piece of the application. All right. Let's just talk a little bit about how this Payroll Protection Program works. It's like this. We're going to figure out that loan amount, right? So let's just say we have, you're going to get that money. All right. We don't care how much it is. The money is going to come to you. And then you're going to have 8 weeks from the date you get the money. So once you get the money in your hands, you're going to have 8 weeks to spend that money on qualified expenses. What are those qualified expenses again? Wages, rent, utilities, which is gas, electric, water, and then telephone and internet. All right. So we're going to get the money. We're going to spend it on those things in 8 weeks. After the 8 weeks, we're going to say, okay, I had this amount of money. I spent it on these expenses. I either spent it all or I have this amount left over. At the end, I'm going to say, well, the government's going to say, you want to pay that back to us now? And you say, no, I want to use it for the next few months because I don't have enough cash. All right, then at that point in time, it'll become a loan. All right, that's the way it works. And I tried to explain it real simply to staff as well, and say it's kind of like this. When Tyler was young, and this isn't a real true story, keep that in mind, because people thought I was real rough. But anyway, when Tyler was young and he wanted to go to the movies, he'd say, "Hey, Dad, I want to go to the movie." I'd say, "Okay. And how much you need, son?" He'd say, "I need, I don't know how much I need, Dad. I need some money. I don't know." And I'd say, "Okay, here's $20. Go to the movies." All right. So he goes to the movie, and he comes back, and I say, "Where's the change?" And he says to me, "Well, Dad, there is no change." I go, "What do you mean there's no change? What did you spend the money on?" He says, "Well, Dad, the movies, I went there, and that was $18. And I say, "Okay, well, what about the other $2? And he says, "Well, on the way home, I stopped at the gas station and I picked up a candy bar and a pop, and that was the other $2. So there is no change." And then I say to him, "Okay, well, Tyler, that's great. I approved the movie. I gave you money for the movie, but I didn't give you money for the candy bar and the pop. So you owe me $2. And that's really what this is. It's real simple. The government's going to give you money. You're going to spend it on the approved things in those 8 weeks. And whatever you spend on the money that's not approved, if you use the money that's for not approved purposes, you're going to owe a loan. And that's really what it's all about. It's to help you get through this crisis, but it's also very specific on the types of things that you can spend it on. So you have to work with your banker, and the banker is going to have to kind of approve this process. So later on, it's going to be documentation and things that we have to provide the banks. They're going to have to certify that what you use that money for was truly qualified expenses. So just keep that in mind. All right. Next, can the bank charge fees to the applicant? And the answer is no, they can't charge you a fee. However, they are getting paid. And it's my understanding that for loans that are less than or equal to $350,000, they're going to get about 5% of the loan that they give you. Okay, so they're getting paid on a percentage. The government's going to pay them for the money that they're giving to you. And then loans between 350 to 200,000, they're going to receive a fee of 3%. Okay. Now, I don't suspect, based on our calculations and what I'm seeing, that anybody is going to get more than $2 million. Okay. So, but they get anything that's equal to 2 million or greater, then they get like a 1% fee. All right. So they're going to get paid for the work they do. Okay, that's how they get paid, and the government's paying them. All right. So here's another question: when will payments begin after the loan is dispersed? So when will payments begin after the loan is dispersed? Well, payments, both principal and interest, are going to be deferred on all PPP program payments for a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 12 months. So you're going to get the money, you're going to spend it over 8 weeks. We're going to have a deferment period of 6 to 12 months before we have to start making payments on the loan. Now, how much is that loan? It's the amount, like in Tyler's situation, it's the $2 that becomes the loan. All right. So whatever that is for you, however much that is, you could say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take this money. I'm going to give it back to the government because I don't really need it any longer. Things have turned around and we're doing fine and I don't need that cash. Well, then you won't have a loan and you won't have to make any payments. But if you keep that, or you paid for that for other expenses that use the money for other expenses that weren't qualified, well, then that's where you would have a loan and you'd have to make the payments. Now, there are a lot of questions and there are a lot of issues regarding the Payment Protection Program. For instance, the timing of it. You may rush out and get with your banker and get this done, and we have to be careful about that, because we do that and now you've got the payment, you've got 8 weeks to start doing that. Well, if this COVID-19 situation has gone longer than anticipated, you don't want the money. you don't want the money till you start up. So while it's important for us to get everything kind of prepared and get with your banker and get things started, it may not be something that you want to just us and get it and I want the money, because now you got the money, and what are you going to use that money for? Those qualified expenses. Well, where are the wages? Oh, well, maybe my employees are on unemployment and I don't even want them back yet because the business isn't up and operational. So be patient, work with your banker, ask your banker the questions. They may not know all the answers at this point. Keep that in mind. Things are fluid. People are trying to figure this out. Remember that the CARES Act was enacted and signed into law last week, Friday. Okay, here it is, Thursday, less than a week away, and we've already got most of the information together for you to do the application process. However, there may be some delays in the process, and you just need to be patient as we work through this. All right, next question. What if I have laid off employees already? Well, as long as those employees are hired back, then those employee wages may be counted in the list of expenses during that 8-week process, okay? Immediately following the disbursement of the loans that may be forgiven. Now, there's a calculation that goes into that, and it's complicated. And I may go over that again at some other time, but just know in simplicity that the money you spend on qualified wages, some of those will be forgiven, okay? And it's really, just keep it simple like that. And maybe at a later time, we'll go through the actual computation, but there's still a lot of unknowns in that area, so I don't want to get into it at this time. Okay, will the forgiven portion of the payment or the Payroll Protection Program, will the forgivable portion, will that be taxable to me? And the answer is no. So it's not taxable to you, and it's just forgiven. And typically, in a normal situation, when you have debt, then it's forgiven, it becomes income. But think of it this way, and I keep saying it, we'll probably get there eventually. This is a program. It's not a loan. It's a government program. So they're giving you the money. We're figuring out whether or not we spent it in the right areas. And then at the end, we're going to either have a loan or we have paid it back. Excuse me. Whew. All right. Next question. When will the debt forgiveness be applied to the loan? Okay. It's expected that the forgiveness will be applied to the loan before any principal or interest payments have to be made. So like I said, we're going to go through that 8 weeks period. We're then going to have to do some hard work again. We're going to have to get in there and say, well, here it is. And our team is already starting to talk about how do we track that? When the office manager or maybe you make a payment, where are we going to put that? How are we going to track it so that we know exactly where it is? And we're working through those details. Remember, we're trying to move quickly and get all this stuff out too. But those are the kinds of things that we're already starting to talk about and think about on your behalf. All right. Let's see. Yeah, what happens with any balance that remains after the portion is forgiven? All right. So we have that amount and we decide, am I going to pay that back and not have a loan? Or I used it for some things that weren't qualified, or I want to use this money for things that aren't qualified going forward, then I will have a loan. And any balance will be amortized over a 10-year term and at a 4% fixed interest rate. And those payments will begin, like I said, 6 to 12 months after the deferral period has ended. Okay, so that's the questions and answers I have on the Payroll Protection Program. I've got one more thing that I would like to touch base on, and that is this. Doctors keep asking me, Mike, do I qualify for unemployment and should I collect it? Well, here's the thing on that. I think, well, I know as an employee of a corporation, you could go out and collect unemployment. Our issue with that is, one, I don't think it's a lot of money. If $900 a week is a lot of money to you and you can't make it work, well, then maybe you have to go on unemployment. My only thing is we don't know, there's not enough clarification, but we believe based on things we're reading, and we, like I said, we're not sure at this point, but that if you go on unemployment, it may disqualify you for the Payroll Protection Program that we just talked about. Now, I think the Payroll Protection Program, like I said, is the golden nugget. That's going to help you. It's going to help you and pay your employees for a while. So I think that we have to be careful about running out, and people will say, well, you know, this organization or this person said I should go get unemployment. Yeah, well, okay, do it. Then I guess if that's what you believe. But I think we need to be careful and be cautious about doing that, just to make sure that you get the Payroll Protection Program. All right, that's the golden nugget. That's what we're working for. That's what I believe will really help your business in this time of a crisis. So with that, I just want you to know that's very gray. And if you want to go after that and get that, that's up to you. But then if you don't get the Payroll Protection Program because of that, then you're going to be stuck, I think. So with that, I don't have anything further as far as questions. I do appreciate everything you guys have been sending in. I hope this has all been very helpful. I do know we get some questions from clients that have not been on their client portal. They have not been there looking at their dashboards that we've been putting on there or any of the other information. We started that earlier in the year, actually last year. So we did it for almost the whole year last year. And some people get on it, some people don't. But because we got that started at that point in time, we're able to now help you through this process very quickly and very expeditiously and efficiently. But it requires that you participate. So I'm just asking that you watch the video and make sure that you understand how to get on our client portal, the client resource portal, and how to get on your new client portal specific to you. With that, I want to thank you. We'll continue to work together through this process. We appreciate your patience and understanding, and we'll get through this. Have a great day.